Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside, the podcast that is dedicated to revolutionising the way dental professionals succeed beyond the dental chair. Join us for a unique blend of insightful interviews with industry experts and valuable tidbits of information to help you thrive in your dental specialist practice. In each 20-minute episode, we'll delve into a variety of topics, including HR, marketing, innovative techniques and systems, and AI, to help you transform your practice and unlock its full potential. Whether you're a dentist, specialist, or oral health therapist looking to enhance your practice, this podcast is your go-to resource for professional, personal, and profitable success. Get ready to go beyond the dental chair and discover what lies ahead in your practice journey with Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Is your team truly on board with the changes you're making to streamline operations or introduce new processes? Or are they rolling their eyes and thinking, here we go again? Today, I'm joined in the office by Ro Gorell, founder of Grow Talent Pty Ltd. Ro is an internationally recognised coach, author, and business strategist who brings deep experience in people and change management. She is a trusted voice in navigating change, especially when context and behaviour matter. Ro, thank you so much for coming to the office today. We did have a few technical issues when we tried to do it remotely. So let's start with your story. Yes. What brought you into this space and what shaped your work around change and people dynamics?
Okay, fantastic. So what brought me into this space? Many years ago, after I left university, I did a temporary job, and I apologise for my throat today. I've got a bit of an asthmatic cough going on there. I did a temporary job in a factory, and it was quite an old factory, and I noticed quite a few things about the way that people were managed in the factory. Although I was there for a very short time, so many things happened in terms of people walking off site, dismissals, the machinery breaking down because the contract they'd won wasn't suitable for the machinery that they got because it was quite old. And that got me really interested in how organisations work and make money. A couple of years later, I then decided to qualify in what was then called personnel management. It's now human resource management. I spent many years there, and in particular in the acquisition space, so acquiring staff. I find it really interesting, particularly around how people respond to change. That's really when I got interested in understanding more about change. And I did an exec development program which was focused on change, and that got me really interested. It kind of snowballed from there, and I left human resources and went into a business improvement role, which was obviously based on all of the things that I'd learned up to that point. So yeah, it was quite an interesting journey.
Definitely an interesting journey. What we find, Ro, in dental practices is your personnel costs are your highest cost, but your personnel are obviously your biggest asset as well. And team dynamics is a very big part of it. I know, like my husband used to go, I'd go to a conference and I'd get all excited, and the girls would come back and go, what's he going to do now?
Yeah.
So do you want to just explain a bit about change management and how to basically get the buy-in from the team, I suppose?
I think that's a common thing when you go on a conference or a course. You get really fired up and then you come back and you suddenly expect everybody else to be at the same stage that you're at. I think that's a really good analogy for change, because often in organisations, whatever size they are, either the founder, and I've worked with small businesses where there's a founder involved.
Okay.
I've also worked with multinational businesses operating across different countries. Typically, though, it starts with somebody at the top having a cunning plan, as I call it, and then they spend months developing this cunning plan, and then suddenly come out from the weeds and go, ta-da, this is what we're all going to be doing.
Well, they hadn't even communicated their plan before getting the plan together.
Because they kind of got this idea that they want to do things differently, or they find a guru speak about something and think, oh, that would work really well in my business. But the thing is that everything is context dependent. What works in one environment might not work in another. And so therefore it does make much more sense to understand your own context first, find out what's going on with your people first, and then understand, is this going to solve the problem? What's the problem? What's the challenge? What is it we're trying to achieve here? Will it actually solve it? And what's actually happening with the staff at the moment? Because with all the will in the world, you can't know everything that goes on in your business, even in a small business. As that example at the beginning showed, they didn't understand how machinery worked. They won this big contract, but the machinery couldn't cope with it. They had so many rejects and it just cost them so much money because they hadn't actually asked the staff how the machinery worked. They hadn't understood when they were bidding for the contract what that might mean.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Ro, is including your team into it to ask them. And my boss at the ortho practice, he used to listen to podcasts. He had a 40-minute commute.
Yeah.
And he'd go, I've listened to this podcast and I really think we should do this. It's like, hang on, just take a deep breath.
Dive back.
That's right. We're not doing anything yet. What was the podcast about?
Yeah.
It was quite funny. But I think because owners, especially in dental practices, they are juggling a lot of hats and they really don't know what the pain points are. If you get your staff involved from the beginning and say, these are our thoughts, and then you get an understanding of what their concerns are. Do you want to enlighten us a little bit about that and maybe give us some examples?
So I'm just thinking about an organisation that I worked with many, many years ago, which was a small business, and getting people involved was really crucial. The business that they were in was changing outside them. There were things that were changing that they didn't necessarily have control over.
Okay.
So getting the staff involved, asking them what was working, what they were hearing on the ground, getting their input. That doesn't mean that you abdicate responsibility for the decision, because ultimately there might be things that are givens that you can't do anything about. You only have so much revenue in a small business.
Yes.
So coming up with sort of whizzy bang stuff that's going to take you out of business probably isn't a good plan.
No, because that's why they've all got a job.
Yeah, exactly. you do need to set sort of what I call enabling constraint. That helps staff understand, okay, what's the context that we're having this conversation in? What are the things that we can do stuff about? What are the things that we can't do stuff about? And what are the things that we haven't thought of yet? It's just asking really simple questions with curiosity, and just understanding that you all understand a little bit of the elephant. You know, the parable of the blind men and the elephant, where they're all touching different parts.
Yes.
One thinks they've got a rope, but in fact it's a tail. One thinks they've got
that's
a
right.
hose, and they've actually got the trunk.
Yeah.
It's getting all of those pieces together to make sense of the whole. And whatever you come up with is never going to be perfect as well. So you need to let go of this sort of perfectionism, getting the right answer. What is the answer that's going to best fit the current situation? Then work with that. Then see what happens, get a bit of feedback, see what's working, what isn't, and then readjust. So it's constantly doing that sort of feedback loop.
Which is what we talk about with systems, when you implement something and then evaluate it, and then there's another iteration because it's not quite right. I think when you said, what haven't you thought of? And in a team, there's so many things that the owner hasn't thought of, or your owner that does this big, amazing plan and goes, this is what we're doing. They haven't thought of these little things that can really create issues. So having the team on board to do that, and obviously setting it up with them and then testing it.
Absolutely. Testing is a real key thing. The brand of change management I follow is called Lean Change, Adaptive Change.
Yes.
And that's really based on two concepts from my perspective. One is sort of insights, options, and experiments. So obviously your insights is your different perspectives. You're asking questions, you're understanding. The options are then anything is possible. What are we actually going to do? Then becomes the experiment. And that's also based around this notion of you making observations. You might make an interpretation of those observations and then you make an intervention. So it's always with that. We used to call it in the olden days, plan, do, check, act. It's that plan, do, check, act cycle.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Plan, do. Yeah. Excellent. If you've got an owner or a founder, or even the team, some of the team do go to these conferences and workshops, and then they do get excited. If you're working, a lot of them are pretty small teams, like sort of 5 to 15 team members. What are your thoughts with how to approach it with the team? Would it be team meetings, or do you think, we're thinking about this? What are your thoughts? How would you approach it that way?
I think so as I said, context is really important. Everything I say today is really with that caveat of understanding what your current situation in, what is it like in your practice, what would make sense in your practice. So everything I'm saying, you must put that lens on it.
It's not a cookie cutter approach.
No, it definitely isn't that.
Yeah, it needs to be bespoke to the practice. That's
absolutely,
right.
yeah. So there are a number of ways, and you mentioned some obviously team meetings. We also do much more informal things, like we call them lean coffees. So anybody who's familiar with Agile will probably be familiar with lean coffees. Basically, it is what he says on the tin. People rock up to a conversation. They actually come up with questions that they want to talk about. You vote on them. You time box each of those discussions. And then everybody gets an opportunity to put their questions forward. And then the group decides which questions get answered. And as for you as a practice owner, what that means is you don't even have to participate in the conversation per se, you just facilitate it, but you automatically hear what's top of mind for people because they tell you they're voting on it. Again, you know which topics are important because they voted on them.
I love that, Ro.
It's very simple, and
That's
it's something that you could do straight away, kind of thing,
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's a piece of gold, people. That's a piece of gold for me as well. So that's good. Adaptive change, looking to solve the problem, the challenge with it, what you want to achieve, getting the team involved, getting their insights, what options you've got, and their perspective. Yeah. Is that a good?
That's excellent. That's very good listening skills.
Okay, I did write it down. When you find your approach, and I love the lean coffees, this approach, what sort of success rate do you see in organisations?
This goes back to, I think, a conversation I might have had with you when we first met about evidence-based change.
Yes.
There are a lot of models and practices in the change sphere in management generally, which have been around. I mean, I've been practicing for 30 years or possibly more, I can't say. I've been around a long time, and there's probably a good opportunity to review those. And what we're seeing at the moment is there is a lot of research being done around some of these models and methods, and we know some work better than others. One of the things that we do know works really well is really, as a leader, understanding how you create trust with your team, because you can have all of the models, methods, tools, techniques till you're blue in the face. If your team doesn't trust you, then nothing you say is going to work. Trust is quite a challenging thing to define. And I guess the way that I would talk about it is, are you walking the talk? So if you say something to your colleagues, can they rely on you to do what you say you're going to do, for example?
I think that then stems around values as well. If you're living the values of your practice every day and the way you treat everybody, your team, your colleagues, your patients, and that is showing through, I think that really builds trust.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think with your values definitely need to reflect the reality. There's a lot of values, particularly you see in large organizations, which are what I call aspirational values. You really fall out of sort of credibility very quickly. The values that you have in your practice, I would say live the values first. And what you're doing is you're just making it really clear, these are the things that we're doing anyway. Trust is also about being honest with people.
Absolutely. Honesty and integrity.
Sometimes there won't be good news. And it's about making sure that you're being upfront with people as you can be. I mean, sometimes, particularly when you're doing acquisitions, you cannot tell people because it's subject to confidentiality and all of that kind of stuff. As far as you can, if you are clear with people what is happening and why it's happening, and you give the context for people so that they can make sense of it for themselves, and you're treating them as adults. And that then I think is quite helpful, because it then means that you can challenge people as well in an adult to adult way, becoming the sort of the parent.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, no, that's right. I have seen that successfully done in quite a few practices. Yeah. One practice I was working with, the communication, it was all Chinese whispers. Nobody knew what was going on. They got so busy that their meetings had gone by the wayside. Their huddles had gone by the wayside. Nobody knew what was happening. And, getting a consultant is actually quite a big change as well for people. Yeah. I like to always do like a lunch and learn, so they sort of get to know me and we can sort of, connect. It's just amazing how started implementing that communication, listened to the team about what was going on and how they just moved up to that next level. It was just amazing. Just seeing that elevate and what it does for everybody, because when you've got everyone on board, then you have happy patients, you have a happy owner, and you have a happy team because you're spending so much time with them. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be working somewhere that's successful.
Yeah.
Change just has to happen, especially, I mean, gosh, now with technology, it's just moving exponentially.
Yeah, and it will move even faster. See, let's mention the word AI, because it's been there for a long time. We just haven't necessarily had what we've got now, which is large language models. But AI has been with us for a long, long time. It's understanding that as your practice grows, you do need systems. The thing I would say, and I'm sure you've had other people on the conversations talking about, you want to make sure that the process is a good process before you automate it, because otherwise you're just automating a rubbish process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really going to help you practice. I think one of the things there that you said about bringing in a consultant as well is a big deal. For small businesses, that is a big deal. And so trust again comes in. You have to develop trust with the staff, because often when you're brought in as a consultant, people worry that it's about cost
cutting and getting their job going, which it's not.
No.
It's about making them happy and creating a great workplace where they just want to come every day.
Absolutely. So again, it's the leadership trust, and it's also you as a consultant going in, building the trust.
Yes.
And as you said as well, it does flow through to your customers. We've all been to dental practices. I remember in my childhood, as soon as you walked into the dental practice, you thought, oh my God, I want to go home. And my dental practice now, I love my dentist. He is an amazing artist and scientist in one. So and you feel it when you walk through the door. So it does flow through.
Absolutely. Ro, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you feel that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think we've covered a lot. I think the key thing for me is really understanding that you've got to take people with you, having the conversations, building the trust, building rapport, and great listening skills, as you've demonstrated as well. Coaching for me is the key skill that you could learn to help with the change process. That's probably what I'd lead with, is that coaching skill.
Excellent. I think that's lovely. So thank you so much, Ro, for joining us. Really appreciate it. For more information about Ro and Grow Talent Pty Ltd, please check out our show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me here.
It's great. It's great conversation.
Thank you. Next episode, we're shifting gears to talk about something every practice owner needs to be across: upcoming changes to the Health Professionals and Support Services Award. Christy Lee Billett from People Powered HR will be joining us to explain exactly what's changing and how it affects the way you classify and pay your dental assistants. It's a must listen if you want to stay compliant and avoid unnecessary costs. Thanks for listening to Dental Success Beyond Chairside. See you next time.